Hey everyone, I'm Gautam aka The Seeker of Wisdom. I'm a manifestation coach, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Will Smith and the Oscars, and a little bit from the perspective of like self-concept and specific person manifesting lens. So before I do so, I'd like to remind you guys I am available for coaching. So I offer hourly, monthly, email, and DM coaching. The link will be in the description down below for an FAQ page where you have all the answers you need, and thereafter you guys can reach out to me for pricing and what plans may be appropriate for you via Instagram or my email. I also have a Facebook group where I upload resources from time to time, as well as you guys can ask me questions anonymously if you wish to do so. And I also have a mailing list where I post articles from time to time, as well as my latest offers for coaching. Again, all the links are in the description down below, guys, so be sure to check it out. Without further ado, let's get to it. So what prompted this video was, it was pretty like a no-brainer at this point because it was like all over the internet. It was really hard to ignore. A lot of my favorite podcasters, were talking about it, and I was really looking at it from like a manifesting perspective, like a specific person perspective, like what goes on, with regards to Will and Jada's self-concept. I didn't really focus too much on Chris. Like I think a lot of people agree, like, with him, the joke was a little out of line, but like I think Will's actions pretty much overshadowed whatever like Chris did. So the internet is kind of like split, I guess, when it comes to like, who is right or who's wrong. And I'm not here to debate on that. Some people are team Chris, and some people are team Will, and it's your preference, and everyone has their views on it. I really wanted to just talk about the self concept of Will Smith and Jada separately, and where you should be on the spectrum of things, because this is a lesson to be learned, right? For those of you who don't know, just for context, right? um, Chris Rock was supposed to present the Oscars for the best documentary or something like that, and then before he starts, he does a couple of different jokes. He pokes fun at Jada, saying that GI Jane 2, can't wait to see it. And for that movie, apparently has like Debbie Moore, like head shaven just like Jada. And Will, like was laughing at the joke at first, but he saw Jada's reaction, and he got, like he got up, he went to the stage, slapped Chris Rock, and he came back and he shouted like, twice, like, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. And that was that, right? And like the whole thing apparently was because like Jada had, alopecia or something, like, and it was like, basically it's hair loss, and that's why she had a head shaved. And I think not a lot of people knew this, including him, Chris. But it is what it is. So all those things happened, the whole internet blew up, and everyone started chiming in. And the whole time, like, this is still kind of fresh, right? And I was joking with my friend, like, remember this moment, because like your grandkids are gonna ask you about this. um, but this is still fresh, and I just wanted to chime in really quick. And like, obviously this was not a incident that just happened out of the blue. Like, there was a whole series of things that happened, right? Will and Jada's relationship, like, is really, the main thing, right? I think it was 2 years ago. They had the Red Table Talk, where like Will was talking about, like, what was going on in their relationship, and she revealed the whole entanglement situation with August, and all those things were happening, and you could really, in that Red Table Talk, like, you can really see Will's face, like really, like, being like really tired, worn out, and almost like sad. And fast forward to right now and everything, it almost felt like this was like the last straw for him, or like as though he was overcompensating for something. Because if you look at the way he walked back right after he slapped Chris, that walk was a little weird, like, and I want to talk about that too. So sorry, guys. So I really wanted to talk about all of those things. So I will start with Will Smith's self concept firstly, because that's like one of the main things that I really want to talk about. I feel that the whole incident, his reaction pretty much was because of the fact that he was trying to compensate, for something, right? Like, I'm not a psychologist or whatsoever, but it really seemed like he was trying to compensate for something, right? And he was really going in there, like that reaction was like, needless to say, too much, right? And it really seemed like he was really overcompensating, right, for something. And it was as though he was trying to prove a point, to the world and to himself almost. And that was like, he's still in a loving relationship or something with Jada, I don't know. But definitely that reaction, and a lot of people agree with this, was, overreacting for a situation that was seemingly very harmless, right? It was a joke. Was it out of line to an extent? Yes. But it was a joke nonetheless. It was verbal, right? There were so many ways he could have dealt with it, but he chose to react that way. That shows, like, sensitivity. That really shows, like, he was easily angered. And the funny thing is, he was laughing at first too, right? So what really triggered this was Jada's reaction. And the one thing that came to my mind as I was reflecting on this whole thing was, it was almost as though he was basing his worth, and he was basing his, happiness and everything like that based on Jada, right? Everything that he was doing was based on Jada, right? Because again, he was laughing at first at the joke, and then, like, when he looked, like, probably he looked at Jada because she was rolling her eyes, but we didn't see the part where, they were interacting thereafter, because we were just seeing, Chris and everything, and then the next thing we know, he was walking up to the stage and stuff, right? So it was probably Jada's reaction to that caused him to react the way he did. And that, like, shows, like, he was basing a lot of his worth or happiness on Jada, right? And that's why he did what he did. It was as though he was trying to prove himself. And this is a common trait that happens when someone puts their partner on a pedestal, right? We call it SP in the community, right? This is what kind of happens when you put your specific person on a pedestal. You try to do things for them, and, like, disregarding the consequences, like he did, right? He can have his award right now snatched away apparently, and there's, like, like a panel reviewing his stuff and whatnot. No one knows what's going to happen, but my point is this: the one person who walked out of this, like, unscathed is actually Jada, right? I would argue, like, a lot of people are saying, like, I like, who's the victim, right? Either Chris or Will, kind of thing. And I would say both of them are, to an extent. The one person who kind of walked away, like, from this, like, very unharmed, without almost a scratch, is actually Jada, right? And look where Will have gotten himself into in the name of protecting, like, his wife's honor, right? I don't think I've seen any social media posts from Jada defending Will, or even, like, thanking him, or even showing an ounce of gratitude for what he did, because he risked his career pretty much in the name of defending her honor. But I've not really seen anything from Jada Pinkett Smith that, like, thanks Will, for his actions, because that was pretty, like, brave of him to do, to an extent, right? Like, I mean, he just didn't think about the consequences. He just went there and slapped him, right? And if you are, like, if someone does that for you, at the very minimum, you should, defend. And that's my opinion, of course, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't really see it, right? And that kind of shows their relationship dynamic, right? Like, who's on a pedestal and who's looking up at the pedestal, right? And it's obvious, right? Will Smith is looking up, and because he has put Jada on the pedestal, right? And that really shows, like, what you shouldn't be doing. That this is a classic example of, like, how you shouldn't place yourself, right? Never put yourself in a position where you are doing things for your SP that could potentially get you into trouble. And also, like, don't value yourself that low, right? In your reality, you are the prize, right? Treat yourself as that, right? See yourself as the prize that you are, and embrace yourself for that, right? Don't, like, react when someone says something to you or about your SP or anything like that. Like, like, just take a step back and see, like, if that reaction is necessary. Like, I'm not saying, like, just defending your SP or something like that, but just, even if you're, like, trying to call them or trying to get their attention, those kinds of reactions too. Like, take a step back and think about it like, okay, is this going to help me? Or with the state of mind that I have right now, is this going to turn out the way I think it's going to turn out, or the way I want it to turn out? And probably not, right? So, whatever you want to do, do it in your imaginal scenes, right? If you miss them, talk to them in your mind, have it in a conversation with them and so on. But don't, resort to, reacting this way, right? Because a lot of people tend to, or like, even if it's another person, for example, right? Like, who's, like looking down in your relationship, or who's telling you maybe your relationship may not work, for example, right? Don't try to like argue with them and waste your energy, but rather, having in a conversation with them, or just hear them say like, you guys are the best couple, you guys are, like an inspiration for all of our friends, and something like that, right? So whatever you want to do it in your imaginal scenes, right? Rather than going out and lashing out like that, right? It reflects badly on you, on your mental strength as a person, and it's not good for anyone, right? So that was something that was really interesting to me with the whole thing, where he was like reacting so much, but there was no reaction from like Jada. Like, all she had to do was roll her eyes and everything just happened, right? Which leads me to the next point, Jada's like self-concept. Like, because like I said, like, she pretty much got away from this unscathed, right? And this was an observation that I didn't make myself. Credit where is credit due. I was watching a podcast of Jocko. For those of you who know him, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he has his own podcast. I'm not sure what the podcast name is, but I was watching a clip of them, like discussing this, right? And the his friend kind of pointed it out, like, Jada is the one like who kind of walked away from this, like, with nothing. And if anything, people were like still feeling bad for her alopecia and stuff like that, right? So like, I really wanted to think, and I was thinking like all the time, like as soon as I heard that, was, wow, what is a self-concept? Like, imagine, like, being able to justify, like, being with a couple different guys, and also, like, all you have to do was roll your eyes, and Will can just go and like slap a guy. Like, what kind of a self-concept do you have to have? And I'm not saying it in a very derogatory way, I'm not looking down on this person or whatsoever. Like, strictly from like a manifesting perspective, I was just like, wow, right? That's a self-concept that I wish everyone had. Because, like, she's coming from a perspective of like, really empowerment, and like, she really sees herself as the prize. Because I really can't see it in another way, because she really values herself, she really holds herself in high regard, such that everyone, in her reality is reflecting that, right? And everyone in her reality is showing that and proving that to her, right? And as she gets more feedback of that, right, she's going to, like, be reinforced in her mind, and that assumption becomes like, so natural for her, right? Because Will is, reacting that way, that assumption is only going to be reinforced in her mind, and she's going to attract more of that kind of behavior from him, or like from everyone else, right? No one's going to dare to make fun of her ever again, right, in any shows or whatsoever, right? So that's one thing. And that itself like shows like, okay, like it really shows her self-concept, the high level of self-concept that she has of herself, right? And again, like, notice how I said, like, as far as I know, there was no statements released from her side. I know Will did release, his own stuff, but nothing from Jada, right? So that kind of shows, again, like, she didn't feel the need to explain herself. That's one thing, right? A person with a strong self-concept never finds the need to explain themselves in any situations. Like, they just do their thing, and they just are like super comfortable in it. Like, they don't feel the need to apologize, they don't feel the need to explain themselves, or they don't feel the need to prove themselves in any way, right? A lot of us, like, when we are in love with our specific person and so on, like, we may tend to, try to explain ourselves, or be very apologetic, or try to prove ourselves in one way or another. But a person with a high self-concept, however, do not feel the need to do that. And that's something that I feel like what was really going on here, right? Was she just, went in, She just rolled her eyes. Everything just happened after that, but she didn't feel like the need to explain herself, right? She didn't feel like she owed that to anyone. And like that's something that I feel like many people can really embody, like that confidence. uh, you know and like whenever your specific person does something, like don't feel the need to react, but rather stay in your own lane, right? A lot of people tend to try to gain their SP's approval, or like really gain the attention of them or whatsoever, right? One thing that they may do is like call them or text them, because there's always that kind of inherent fear where people will say, oh, I'm scared that my specific person may move on if I don't do anything, if they don't hear from me. Again, you have to flip it such that, what if they are fearing of losing you? Put yourself on the pedestal, see yourself as the prize, and start seeing yourself as the front and center piece of your entire reality, right? Because this is your reality, you are the star, you are the prize, and really start to see yourself as such. And like really come at it from a perspective of what will they have to do in order to get my attention. How are they approaching me, right? How are they trying to convince me to be in this relationship, because they now know that I am the prize. They now feel lucky to have me in their life. So how are they going to approach me? Always approach it from a very high self concept, and that this is what it kind of looks like for perspective. you know so my point is this, right? Be more like Jada in terms of self concept, be less like Will, right? Don't be in a very reactive mode, and do things that you're going to regret later in the 3D, right? And like don't have a very low self concept of yourself. I mean, this guy, he was going to win Oscars, and he did, right? But the thing is, like, I don't think Jada has done a movie for a while right now, and I don't think like she's even a good actress, I guess you could say. I again, I'm just speculating here. I don't know anything about Jada and whatnot, but think about it. This guy has so many movies on his belt, and a lot of good ones too. And he's a star. He's recognizable all around the world and everything. And yet, right, when it comes to SP, his self concept is not so ideal. So a lot of people, that's the thing that like trips up a lot of people, is how is this guy feeling like this? Like, how did he allow himself to feel like this? But it's simple, right? Like I always say, like his self concept with regards to his career is top notch, and that's evident because he just won the Oscars, right? The highest, like one of the highest accolades he can receive, and recognition he can receive for his career, right? But when it comes to SP, you know needless to say, it's down the drain right now, right? And that's the thing, like you can have very good self concept for your career, finance, and so on, but when it comes to SP, it can be like literally down the drain. So that's the thing, like don't base your happiness on anyone or anything, right? Only base it on yourself. When you tap within yourself, it's an infinite source, right? Give yourself that happiness, give yourself that acknowledgement, and see how far you have come, and be comfortable in your own skin. Don't let anyone like use you like that or control you like that, right? So that really shows where you are as a person. And like one thing that really kind of like stood out for me was, like, again, how he was laughing at first, and how he was like that walk he made, like right after he slapped Chris, like that kind of like really showed like what kind of a mental state he was in. It was as though he achieved something, right? And don't let your specific person dictate you that way, right? So it's very simple, right? Don't settle for less. If they're calling you for something, right, like to be friends with benefits, for example, don't respond. If that's not what you desire, do not respond. Stay in your own lane. Don't be afraid that, oh, they might leave me if I were to do this, or if I don't respond or whatsoever, right? Be comfortable in your own skin. Know your worth, right? Do not negotiate. Do not settle for breadcrumbs, right? Stand in your own lane and be confident, because they will come to you when you do that, right? And a lot of people are like, will they, right? Again, replace uncertainty with certainty. Assume the best and keep going. Of course they will. Where are they going to go? That's what your thought process should be like. And you just keep going. And a lot of people also, this was something very interesting too, I wanted to touch on, was because he was, I think, getting the Oscars for the King Richard film, right? Like the story of like Serena and Venus Williams, and like how their father like coached them or something like that. And he was playing Richard, and he, I think a lot of people were saying it's almost as though he was still in his role. It's because whatever happened seemed like as though it was something that Richard would have done, and that was really interesting for me because when you embody a character like that, like when you embody like a character while acting, you also embody their state of mind. And it could be the case where he actually did that. He was actually embodying that guy in his mind, and when he just slapped Chris Rock, right? And that really kind of shows like how you can just embody certain personalities just like that, right? I mean, of course he's an actor, that's his job, but as regular people, like like we can to like embody like our ideal selves, like see that as a role to step into, right? And just embody that kind of personality, right? That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is like, okay, if you want to be a billionaire, or if you want to be the person who has it all, sure, you may look around and say, well, I don't have it, well, how am I supposed to embody it? But you can see it in your mind. It's a mindset you're embodying. It's a mentality that you're possessing. um, you know Even if you have like $1 million in account, you can still feel like a poor man, and guess what, you'll lose it all eventually. Maybe not in that moment right then and there, but eventually you will. And I think a lot of people can relate to this when it comes to a specific person. I found myself hearing this from clients recently quite a bit, and that is, I manifested my own breakup, right? Somehow I knew this was going to happen. We were in a very happy relationship, but I felt like I manifested my breakup because I felt like somehow this was going to happen. And that is something that they were just embodying, even though that wasn't true, and it became true. Now the good news is that the opposite for that is true as well, in the sense that if you are in a very like unfavorable place right now, you can imagine something favorable, and you can manifest it as well. So all you have to do is just embody that person in your mind, that ideal self who has it all, and start to think like that person, right? When you start thinking like that person, everything is being brought down from the pedestal. You wouldn't be looking at some object or that status or that way of life, by putting it up on the pedestal, right? Because that's normal to you, that lifestyle is normal to you, right? And you'll find yourself asking, like, if you were already this person, would you be worrying, or would you be concerned or whatsoever? And 9 times out of 10 the answer is no. And you just go by your life knowing that it's already yours, right? And that's something that you can embody, right? So imagine yourself to be in a high position, or like as an ideal self who has his or her confidence like so high that people are always being attracted to your magnetic personality, for example, or your confidence, for example. And see yourself as that person. And if you were that person, like, ask yourself, would you be pining for SP? Would you be worrying for SP? Or would you be concerned if SP likes you or whatsoever? Probably not, because you are the prize, and you know that. You are the confident person, and you know that, right? So just embody that person as much as you can, and keep going. So really, like, that's about it. Like, and really, like, just it's all about really embodying that kind of personality and just going on with life. And again, be more like Jada in terms of self-concept rather than Will, right? Because I feel like that this was like a big lesson. This was a huge reminder for me, and I really like saw it as that, self-concept wise. And never let anyone dictate you like that. Whether you're a guy or a lady, like, don't let anyone dictate you like that. Don't stand on your own ground. If you want to like defend your family and stuff like that, sure, but like keep in mind like who you're doing it for and how they view you as well, right? Because in this case, like, again, like I said, there was no official statement from her. She wasn't defending her man in any way. It was just like, oh, it happened, and there was nothing from her. And it was also almost as though she was like treating him not as how as he treats her. It wasn't equal for sure. The relationship dynamic between them is such that she's like always on the pedestal, right? Don't get yourself into those kind of situations. And if you are, bring them down from the pedestal, put yourself first, and always think from that perspective. And yeah, guys, so these are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We've come to the end of the video, so thank you guys so much for watching. A lot of you have been giving me so much support on Instagram, and you guys always tell me that the YouTube videos are great and I think so. Thank you so much for the support that I always receive from you guys. I truly appreciate it. So be sure to like and comment and subscribe. Turn on the bell notification so that you'll know when I upload a new video every single week. Yeah, so you guys can also leave your YouTube suggestion, video suggestions in the form in the description down below as well. So a lot of people have been telling me that as well. And one more announcement is um, with regards to Facebook groups. So I do see a lot of comments in my videos that, oh hey, I just left a you know like a post for approval. I just asked a question and stuff like that. Here's the thing, right? Facebook group like is always like every post is always subject to approval by the admin or my moderators, and so I will have to first read it and I'll prepare a response so that I can immediately respond as soon as I approve the post. And it may take a while because like I am handling like a couple different platforms all the time, so it may take a while, but rest assured I will see your post, and if I do decline your post, you will definitely receive feedback. And also one more thing is, if you guys are coming into the Facebook group, please answer all questions. Otherwise, my moderators will decline it with feedback like, okay, based on what you didn't answer. It's basically three simple questions. Where did you find us? Do you agree to the group rules? And of course, your email, just for verification purposes and whatnot. And that's about it, right? It's just three simple questions. It's not a lot. I don't think it is. So just answer that. And if you guys aren't doing that, and I'll just decline it with feedback and just ask you to fill that up, and you are in. So that's it, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and happy manifesting. Peace.